Welcome back everyone. In this lesson we are going to discuss about page object models. This design pattern is commonly used in automation frameworks that deal with GUI interfaces. And what does it mean? It means that you can structure in a single class specific areas of your application. So it might be a page in your application, it might be a menu, a pop-up. Now, this is commonly used in Selenium frameworks, and you should know that Playwright also encourages you to use this design pattern. We have, if you go to the documentation, we have here a page that talks specifically about page object models. And in this case, we have an example of a search page. Now, why is this page object model useful for us? So the main reason would be the fact that you can store the locators that pertain to that specific item, page object. You can store them in a single central place. So let's say this locator over here, if this ever changes, you just need to go to this page and change it over here. If you were to always in your test invoke this locator, let's say you have 10 tests and each need to interact with this locator, then you would have to go in each of your tests to change this. Now, you also have in your page object actions that pertain to that specific page. So for example, here we have a search page, and there are two actions that you can perform. You can do a navigate and you can do a search. And having this type of actions written into methods, it helps you to reduce the amount of code you need to write, and it also reduces code duplication. And then whenever you need to interact with this page, you could just call it in your test, and then you will directly just invoke the methods that do specific stuff to that page. Okay, enough about documentation. Let's go to our framework and see what we did last time. So in our last lesson we created this Playwright runner, and we moved some duplicate code that pertains to instantiating browsers and creating the page, a Playwright page. And now we are going to create our first page object, and to do that I'm going to go to our sign up test. So if you remember, what we did in this test is, let me switch back to the Best Buy application. So for sign up we would click this account button, then we would go to create account, and we would land on this form over here. So this is a typical example of what would be considered a page object, and this page over here we can actually associate it to a page object model. So we can create a page specifically for this part of the application, and let's do that now. So this is a create account form, so I could call this page create account page. It would make sense for me. So okay, where would we create these pages? Let's add in our framework a new directory, main Java, and here I'm going to create a new package, and I will call this package pages. And here it will be the place where we are going to store multiple pages for our application. Now I just said that I'm going to create for that specific view a page called create account page. Perfect. Okay, so we need to pass to this page a Playwright page. Actually, we need to pass the page that we are instantiating over here in our setup. So in order to do that, we need to pass it somehow, and the way we would do that is by using the constructor. We are going to declare one argument constructor that will take a page as an argument. Okay, and I'm going to declare over here this page. I'm going to make it private final because this will not need to change, and I'm going to call this create account page. Okay, and here in our constructor we are going to instantiate this create account page with the page that we are passing as an argument in the constructor. Perfect. Now the next step would be to create an action that we can invoke from this page. So if we go back to our test, we can see over here that everything that we do over here, actually from here on out, because here we are clicking the account button and here we are clicking the create account button, and everything that happens from line 18 down to line 30 actually happens in that create account page over here. And we can simply copy all this. So I'm going to cut it, and in our create account page I'm going to create a new method. I will call it, it won't return anything, so it will return void. I'll call it create account. Okay, sorry about that. And I'm going to pass over here all the fields from our test. Now we can see over here that our method doesn't know about this page, but luckily we have created this create account page, so we are going to invoke this throughout our test. Okay, and to complete our test we should call this method, this create account method from here, from this create account page in our test. But right now we don't have any reference about this create account page, so let's create this. We are going to invoke this in our setup method over here, and the way we do this is I'm going to declare it over here protected, because I want only my test to have access to it. I will call this create account page like so, and over here in our before each, before our test will start, I'm going to call the constructor for this. So I will say create account page equals new, and then call the constructor and pass the page we instantiated over here in the constructor. Okay, at this point we can call this page in our test like so. Perfect, and now we can invoke all the public methods that are accessible in this page. And as you can see, we have the create account method that we just did a few seconds ago, and this will will fill our form. It won't actually do the last step, but that's okay. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's see if it still works as before. I'm going to put a breakpoint over here and debug this test. So I'm expecting it will have the same functionality as before, but now we are using a page object model for that specific part of the application. Okay, it should click the account, create account, and fill the form in. Okay, so we have the same functionality now, but as you can see, we removed all those lines of code, and now we simply have just a call to this method. You should know that all the values from here are hard-coded at this moment, but we will take care of this in a future lesson. So usually you would pass an argument of some sort of model that will model a user and will have all this information inside it. So you won't need to hard code, because you might need to call this create account method in different contexts. So create account for Peter, create account for Alex, and so on. Okay, what else we can do with this page? So I said that one of the, or actually the biggest benefit of having page object models is that you have a central point for storing your locators, your selectors. Okay, so right now you can see that we are using these locators. The selectors, they are written, they can be duplicated. For example, if I need to call first name again in a different method, I will just have to duplicate this locator. So that won't work if I need to reduce code duplication. So how we store our locators? I usually like to declare them on top over here as private static final strings. Okay, and let's say the first one is first name. I would call it something like first name, and then I will store the string over here. Now you can store CSS selectors, XPath, it doesn't matter because they are all strings. And then when this class will be instantiated using this constructor, this will also be filled in. So you will have the input first name value inside of this. And the way you use it in your actions, you don't use the string, you just invoke the argument as so. So this solves two issues. You won't need to duplicate it if you need to use it again in a different method. And also, it makes it more readable. So for example, let's say that for first name, you could have guessed the field. But for this one, which is the password, it doesn't have such a user-friendly name. So let's go ahead and change all these selectors and store them up here. I'm going to duplicate this a few times. So next one will be last name. Okay. Then email. Okay. Let's also put this in the locators. Perfect. Then we have this password field. I'm going to call this password. Let's duplicate again some rows. So here we have password. Then we have confirm password. Oh, I have this this row is duplicated. Okay, I'm going to remove it from here. And the next one, after confirm password, we have this selector for error message, but it mostly, this is also true for error or information message. So I'm just going to call it validation message. Copy the selector and use it in this assertion. Okay. Then we have phone, recovery phone. So phone, which has this input phone selector over here. Then we have that checkbox. Let's call this recovery phone checkbox. So you see, I can add additional information about the selector, so it will be easier for me to remember what they are used for. Okay, let's also change the actual selectors over here, and here we have recovery phone checkbox, and we have one last one, which is the submit button. Okay, submit and use this selector. Perfect. Sorry about that. And we are done, I believe. So now all our selectors are stored over here as constants, and we are just invoking the actual attributes in our test. So for example, if I have a different method and I need to use the first name, I won't invoke the selector directly, the hard-coded value. I will just call first name, and if this changes, I just need to go up here and change it, and that's all. Okay, so at this point I'm going to stop my test because it was in debug mode, and what I would like to do is run it again and see that everything works as before. Okay, going to our setup test, debug it again, and we should have the same functionality as before. Okay. Perfect. So guys, we just created our first page object model, and we've modeled the create account page with this class over here, and we managed to reduce the verbosity of our test. You remembered over here we had like 10 lines of code, and now we are simply invoking a method from a page.